Right, we are live. Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to the Kiwi Lads channel. We are back for the bronze medal final of the Singapore Sevens. This one, New Zealand versus South Africa. Now, it may start a little bit later than it was anticipated, and that is because USA versus Canada is going to Golden Point for the female bronze final. But I'm excited to see what happens here between these two sides, mainly because it is the equivalent of a final when you look at the caliber of these teams. South Africa, they are tied for first at the moment. New Zealand are a little bit lower in terms of their ranking. And of course, there is still a women's final just around the corner between New Zealand and Australia, and the men's final around the corner for Fiji versus the French. But it looks like Olivia Apps is just about to score for Canada, so they will take out the bronze medal for the women. But looking through at the way that the lineups sit for New Zealand versus South Africa, first of all, for the Kiwis, it is Fletcher Morgan, Kitio Navai, Tony Nashu, Kelly Lasanga, Sophie Natoa-Tipo, Regan Ware, and Frank Wainuku. So a few changes compared to what we saw from New Zealand in their semi-final defeat up against the Fijians. For South Africa, they again are going with a stacked lineup. They have gone Ryan Oosthuizen, Safewe Suez-Wapi, Christy Grobela, who did have a great impact off the bench in the last contest up against the French, managed to get himself a try in that semi-final, the lone try for the Blitzboks. Donovan Don, Tristan Lades, Shilton van Wyk, and Ricardo James Duarte. He had a bit of a mixed bag of a game for the semi-final. He had some decent moments. He was yelling at his teammates when he dropped the ball, which was quite an intriguing little moment. Hi again, all, says Wild Lobster. Welcome in. Hope you're doing extremely well and hope you are excited for this bronze final. Like I said, these two sides, it is the equivalent of a final when you look at who are selected in the teams, but they are only playing for the bronze here. As Fiji and the French, they have the opportunity and the main final. But there's been some close games between these two sides in the past. There have also been a few one-sided ones, but you just wonder, will both of these sides still be motivated? I think that New Zealand, a bronze final for the Kiwis, with where they are in the rankings, they might actually really show up for this game, whereas South Africa, they'll be disappointed that they aren't through to the final, and maybe that takes the foot off the gas, that brings out the frustration. And that's something that the New Zealanders may be hoping for, but then on the other side, they might come out like a wounded beast here and just absolutely dominate. G'day, Hamish says Studs Rays, welcome in. Wild Lobster's here as well. Morning, Hamish. The women's sevens, in my opinion, is the best women's sport to watch. Says DJ. And yeah, that New Zealand versus Australia final, it has happened time and time again and is always thoroughly entertaining. We're going to be covering that one on the channel. That is the next game that does kick off in around 35 minutes. And then straight after that, we're into the men's final to see who wins between Fiji and also the French. But do let me know your score predictions for this game, ladies and gents. Who do you think will take out this contest? It is for the bronze, and there are plenty of points on the line. We've got to look at the fact that South Africa, heading into this leg of the sevens, they were tied for first. Fiji will go above them now because of the fact that they're in the final, but South Africa can still get a couple extra points here if they're able to get the victory now. But yeah, I love my sevens, and the fact that we've got it 3 weeks in a row is thoroughly exciting. Now, you might think to yourself, it's the Perth Sevens next week. What's on the week after? The Nairobi Sevens, where we get to see Kenya in action. A side that are thoroughly missed on the main circuit. We get to see the men and women from Kenya. We get to see the South African women also taking part in that one. Greeting, Hamish. 25-22, no idea what to expect this Suds race. Yeah, this is the type of game that if you tried to give a prediction, like it's literally a lottery. Because either both of these sides will show up motivated, one of them may look depleted and a bit disappointed that they didn't make it to the final. That could be New Zealand. Maybe they felt like this was their competition to be able to bounce back after doing so well in their next two games after the loss to France. South Africa, they were undefeated up till that last game. Well, actually, up till the game prior to that, as well. And cold but dry here, says DJ. But yeah, there's been a lot of close games, and I hope that this one is one of them as well. Split by less than 7, that would be the ideal scenario. That way it builds the rivalry for when these two sides play again, potentially next week. Although I don't think they'll be in the same grouping. I think there's a chance that they could end up on opposite sides. But yeah, some massive group stage fixtures taking place in Perth as well. Hello, all you rugby rockers tuning in to Kiwi Lads. Says Roof there, and also Hamish Groovy Black T-shirt. And Southwest England in the UK for where it is cold but dry. Yeah, see, for us here in New Zealand, during those two semi-final games, I'm not sure what the temperature was. I think it was about 20 degrees, but I was sweating profusely throughout those two matches. I think it was just the intenseness of those games that ended up feeling like a workout covering them on the channel. But these two sides, they will be probably quite happy. They've only got 2 games today compared to the 3 of yesterday. The players have already mentioned about the heat and the humidity that they are playing in for the Singapore Sevens. But off the bench for these two sides, I should mention, for the Kiwis, they have got Rob and Brady Rush, 2 men who have been predominantly starting for the New Zealanders. Scott Gregory, Michael Manson back on the bench with Riley Williams as the last replacement. For the South Africans, they have got Sukui Xander Reinders. He's had a bit of a mixed tournament. He's had some good starting minutes throughout this comp, but he has been switched for Christy Robela. I think that's just for a bit more stability in the starting lineup and experience. David Brits off the bench too, alongside Sebastian Yob and Luan Gliomi. And there too, hello Kiwi lads, Mr. Hamish is doing great commentary, says JD, and we still have 2 more matches around the corner. The Sevens weekend has absolutely flown by. We've also had the URC that we've been covering on the channel too. But yeah, a lot of excitement still to come across these last 3 games. Was 27 degrees in Christchurch earlier. We had the heat pump on, says Studs Race. And howdy folks, says JD. But yes, it's pretty warm here in New Zealand. The weather's so weird. You know, only last week we were having a whole heap of rain and it was flooding everywhere, and now it's too hot. Like, it just doesn't seem like it's making up its mind. Gloucestershire, says DJ. But at the moment, they are just having the conversation between New Zealand and Australia commentators in terms of who they think will be able to win that final around the corner. But now these two sides are about to make their way on the field, New Zealand and the South Africans. Great atmosphere at the stadium, but it also looks like a very nice backdrop for the stadium here. South Africa ranked number 1, New Zealand ranked number 3. Both of these sides can potentially gain, I believe it would be 16 points for this round. The loser would gain 14. So yes, it doesn't sound like a lot, 2 points difference, but in the end, with our closest competition is currently, those could be the difference makers for whether or not you do get that title. 4 seasons in 1 day, says Jasmine, and absolutely here for it, Mr. Hamish, says JD. Now just showing those starting lineups yet again. There is power across both sides. Christy Robela, I think he's been one of the best impact players in this competition. We're making his way off the bench. But the Box, they are wearing their white kit for this contest. New Zealand, they are in the classic black and ready to go for the bronze final. New Zealand also, I don't know whether or not this is correct or if I just haven't been paying attention to New Zealand's boots. Have they got the shiny new boots for this bronze medal final? Everyone's got the bright yellow boots. I swear I haven't noticed them up until this matchup. Or maybe I just haven't been paying close enough attention to their shoes rather than the rugby that's being played. But for the South Africans, they started off the competition with a hiss and a roar, having 2 wins in a row up against Spain and Great Britain. But from there, they have suffered 2 losses in a row, which is uncharted territory for this Blitzboks side. The referee, he looks very happy to be there, ready to go for this bronze final. And Hamish, what do you think? I think it's going to be close, but could easily go either way. I do think that New Zealand in their game up against Fiji, they did very well controlling the amount of possession that they had. South Africa hardly touched the ball in the first half up against the French. But then from there, they started getting that little bit of a comeback going. But it just wasn't quite enough. Now New Zealand ready to kick this one off from left to right. I will mention Akulia Roka Lesoa not in the starting lineup for this game. Instead, it is going to be Kelly Lasanga. Does get us underway, but it will be kicked off. In fact, Natoa Tippo, who has got the ball in hand, I have just seen, number 81 for the Kiwis. And there is an early knock-on from Tony Nashu, picked up by Shulton Funvake. When is the women's final, says Cats. And now the women's final will be kicking off in 30 minutes' time. And we will be covering that one on the channel, as well as the men's final just around the corner too. Christy Robela with the big fend on Lasanga. South Africa 40 metres out from their own line. Safiwe Swears Wapi running it sideways now. Ryan Oosterhuizen goes back across Tristan Lades. Ricardo James Duarte inside of the 22. South Africa currently losing meterage. But of course, one big breaking run can completely change that. That was an ugly high shot from New Zealand. Got him far too high. The kick is taken by Ryan Oosterhuizen. At least a quick tap, that is. And deep as Stark Pirate territory, Ruth, says DJ. Now Tristan Lades dragged down by his jersey. And now stolen in the breakdown by the veteran Regan Ware. Christy Robillard wanted it straight back. Two South Africans get in there, but not rolling away. Penalty goes against the box. The old discipline once again starting to hurt them, but New Zealand with the ball on the halfway line, looking to shuffle through that gap for Sophie Tippo. Bit of a rough pass, but it will be another penalty against South Africa, this time for offside. That is two penalties against the Blitzboks within the first minute and a half. Steals this week, New Zealand are top in the overall rankings for steals with 13. South Africa are second with 11. So it just tells you both of these sides were actually in very good form heading into those semi-finals and actually played relatively well in the semis at times too, but they were just beaten by the better sides on the weekend. That is Sevens pretty much epitomised. Justice for Harold the Giraffe, says Xander. I don't even know if it's still a thing. I assume it would be. Like Harold would still go to the schools round New Zealand. Of course, anyone who missed that conversation yesterday, Harold is a puppet giraffe. And let's go New Zealand. G'day, mate. From Brisbane, how are you, Hamish? I'm doing very well. Excited for the matches still coming up as well as this one. Currently 2 minutes have passed. Run from Tony Nashuno. Being driven slightly towards the sideline. Lasanga now playing half. Back across to the left. Slinging pass here for the Kiwis as the sun starts to set in Singapore. One of these two sides, their hopes of finishing with a bronze medal will also be setting in the relatively near future. Tony Nashu looked to the short side where he would have been isolated, so instead fires it off to the right. Lasanga with the step, fends off Ricardo. James Duarte gets rid of him and scores the try between the posts. New Zealand take the early lead in the bronze final. That will be a nice, easy conversion straight out in front of the post as well, but Kelly Lasanga, we saw him for, I believe it was Bay of Plenty in the Bunnings NPC, and he just looked like a real handful. And the way that he stepped around there, cut through, got rid of Ricardo James Duarte. What does the current log look like, says Roger. So at the moment, on the overall standings, 1 second, I'll go like that. And I'll stick this one here so that we can see. But the standings going into this competition, in first place it was South Africa on 32. New Zealand and Fiji were also on 32 points overall. So whoever wins in this match, they will be in second in the overall standings, unless of course France win that final, which is well and truly a possibility. But yeah, a lot can actually change amongst the top about 4 or 5. And this one, Stephen Fenn, looked like Georgia Miller. Says Studs Race. And who is this kid for New Zealand? Sure is a handful. Mr. Amish says JD. So yeah, his name is Kelly Lasanga, and he is definitely one to keep an eye out for in the future, although he's just missed a tackle on Ryan Oosthuizen, who has been shouldered there by Frank Vainuku. There is the advantage in favour of the South Africans. Tristan Lades picks the ball up, misses the pass, so they will go back for the penalty. And Tony Nashu, he's frustrated, right? This could be a yellow card here for New Zealand. I mentioned how there was a shoulder that went into Ryan Oosthuizen. If there is no arm wrap, there is a very high chance that New Zealand gets someone sent to the bin here. Potential serious foul play by Black 75, which is Frank Vainuku. They are going to check this one. He had no intention of wrapping his arms. It just depends on how high up he hit Ryan Oosthuizen. Okay, he hits them in an upwards motion. Oh, that angle makes it look worse. I think luckily for him, he only caught him around maybe just on the bottom of the chin, but it still does not look good. And I feel like this is probably going to be a yellow card. To be fair, there's an arm wrap. It's just that the shoulder kind of goes first and then the wrap. So the only thing might be height. They've called it as foul play. He doesn't wrap in the tackle. Oh, okay. So he doesn't wrap, but it is only going to be a penalty here against New Zealand. The penalty only. So the fact that they called that as no wrap, though, means that had he made contact with Ryan Oosthuizen's chin a little bit more, he was probably looking at something a lot more severe than just a penalty. YouTube says Cookie Time is the best chocolate cookies in New Zealand. Do you eat them, Hamish? It looks like the Sesame Street Red Monster on the package, says Xander. Cookie Time cookie is quite nice. They actually have a factory about 2.5 hours up the road, I think it is, or maybe 2 hours, or at least there used to be one. I don't know if it's still there, but it used to be quite cool to go to and have a look at the cookies. Now, a little bit of a counter ruck there from New Zealand, but the ball's still on the side of the South Africans. Tristan Lades cuts through, but he's going to be dragged down, or at least he should have been. That's brilliant strength shown. And they will check this one, but I believe he's got it down there, Tristan Lades, and it should give the South Africans their first try of the match. Not even a penalty, always rapping. Says JD. Oh, sorry, that was Stud's race. Watch those tackles, says Ruth. And there as well. So this one will be checked. Now, for a start, it looked like he was going to be dragged down short, Tristan Lades, but... Oh. Okay, so the hand is under there for Kitione Vai, but I don't know if he does enough to stop it from going down at all. You could argue that some of the ball has touched the ground as it has landed on Kitione Vai's hand, and it's awarded as the try for Tristan Lades. Like they've said, it would have been a frustrating one for Tristan Lades had that not been awarded as the try. That's a try, says Jasmine. Yeah, I believe that tip of the ball touched before it rolled onto the hand of Kitione Vai. And at the end of the day, 10 metres Tristan Lades made with Vai on him. It was probably a bit of a defensive error. In fact, that kick is missed from South Africa. So because of that, it's going to make the score 7 points to 5. Still in favour of the Kiwis, but a very close game between these two sides. Now kicking this one up high. They've just got there a stat, which is South Africa haven't finished on the podium in Singapore since 2019. So it has been a long time coming for the South Africans, and they are fighting off for the bronze medal here up against the Kiwis. Strength, says Ruth. Yeah, just pure power. Cookie time in Templeton, just on the outskirts of South Christchurch. They have a factory shop. Oh, so it is still there. See, I haven't probably been for like a decade, so I wasn't sure if it was still hanging around or whether I had been taken away. I know that chocolate factory in Dunedin, it was quite sad when it left, even though I'd only been to it once, but now run there forward from Frank Vainuku. The breakdown, Ricardo James Duarte manages to win the penalty for his side. No clear release from the Kiwis. And fudge caramel macchiato cookies, says Ruth. Right, South Africa have called for the scrum here. It's about 70 seconds remaining. And these two sides, like we mentioned, they are the top when it comes to steals throughout this competition. New Zealand had 13, South Africa had 11, and now, of course, South Africa have themselves 12. When is Super Rugby starting? Not next weekend, the weekend after. So next week, Six Nations starts. Weekend after that is when Super Rugby kicks in. And there's some big matches in round 1 too. I happened to be in the two Blitzboks last game. There was beef between the two players after the knock-on. Can't recall who the players was. So Tristan Lades passed the ball to Ricardo James Duarte. Ricardo James Duarte then sold the dummy and didn't pass it to him. Then Ricardo James Duarte dropped the ball and got angry at Tristan Lades because Ricardo didn't pass the ball himself. It's pretty much the gist of it. But I think he was just frustrated that he dropped the ball. Speaking of which, he's just dropped the ball again, and New Zealand are now on the counter-attack. So Ricardo James Duarte, he's had a bit of a trend of dropping the ball throughout this competition, unfortunately, and it has just happened right when we mentioned it. There's a knock-on from New Zealand as well. Oh, okay, referee didn't call it initially, but then does award it. Now will be the scrum feed here for South Africa just before the halftime break. And 2019, very long time for the Kiwis, says JD, although that is for South Africa since the podium in Singapore. Can you please cover the Super Rugby like you did last year, please? I really enjoyed it, please. I believe we are going to be doing Super Rugby just like last year in terms of as many games as we can. It's February 14th. February 14th, that's Valentine's Day, isn't it? I feel like best present, take your significant other to the rugby. They'll either love you or hate you for it. Oxenshire had a shocker pass yesterday, says Xander. And I must have jinxed him with my question, says Roger, now going off to the left-hand side here for the South Africans. Donovan Non cutting inwards. Great low tackle made by Regan Weir. Ricardo James Duarte back across to Ryan Oosthuizen, but they've got a chance to take the lead here in the Blitzboks. If they can score now, great run from Saviwe Soyas-Wapi. Even better tackle, though. Round the bootlasers from New Zealand. Bounce pass to Ricardo James Duarte again. Going across to Donovan Don. Thought about cutting in, but he will go near the touchline. He is going to be smashed by Regan Weir, but the Boks still have the ball. Shilton van Wyk. It's been a bit quiet this competition compared to some of the other. Christy Rubala. He's going to be wrestled down. Ball goes out. He's played it on the ground there, so it would be a penalty to New Zealand, but instead it's going to be called as a knock-on. Lasanga, are they going to try and run this out, New Zealand? They're only 1 metre out from their try line. They're under huge pressure from the South African pack. I think they may just go back for the knock-on. Yes, they do, and that is the end of the half. And now, at 7 minutes into the contest, it is going to be 7 points to the 5. And we changed the minutes, says Mary. Well, we have now changed it to the 7 minutes. I would change it to half-time, but I'll just have it as 7. Everyone knows when half-time is. Covering the Women's Sevens final, we certainly are. So yeah, New Zealand versus Australia again in the Women's final. It happens almost each and every time that the two sides take part in a Sevens tournament. And then we've got the final after that between Fiji versus France. And that will be the other one that we are going to be covering. Yes, it's February 13th for Super Rugby, not 14th. Says Ice, although February 13th, I'd assume, is a Saturday, right? Which does mean still, I guess, rugby on the 14th of some sort. I took a date to the rugby once. A Coke bottle hit me in the face after a Mexican wave. That's unfortunate. And I assume that the date didn't go well outside of that. Maybe. Don't know. I haven't taken anyone to the rugby that I can think of other than the other Kiwi lads. We went to the Crusaders versus Highlanders game in Christchurch last season. I did like a whole vlog of it. And then I was worried that Super Rugby would try and take it down for some sort of copyright, so never uploaded it. Can you convert a try with a drop goal in 15 aside? Can you convert a try? You can. Sometimes you see the ball falling off the tee and players rushing to take a drop kick. I'm actually kind of surprised more players don't, although to be fair, the accuracy in the sevens off the drop kick is sometimes, you think, a lot lower than off the kicking tee. Does Rugby Sevens have a World Cup? It certainly does. I think it's taking place next year or this year. I believe we're already back to the Rugby World Cup stage. Nope, struck out. She was a league chick anyway, says Studs Ray. And also conversion miss, Lebok or Sarge kicking, says Bruce. I think it was Tristan Lades in that case. It wasn't able to convert, unless it was Ricardo James Duarte, in which case his tournament has gone from bad to worse. The second half of this one just about go for World Sevens or Sevens World Cup was scrapped, was it? Did they get rid of it after the last one? Is that because of the Olympics or just because of the fact that they kicked all the teams off the Sevens circuit? So I guess they tried to probably turn it into the championship that they've got now, right? New Zealand versus Australia should always face each other in the semis. Says Katzenell, they almost could have, but USA butchered it. Had USA beaten Australia, New Zealand versus Australia would have happened because of the Olympics. Says, I see, normally they used to work hand in hand, didn't they? And have it that they still had both. Now, it's going to be kicked off by South Africa, who are currently down by the 2 points, but that is a thin margin in sevens. New Zealand inside of their own 22. Bit of pressure in the breakdown from the box. Asanga passes back across. We've got to remember the Rush brothers will be making their way off of the bench here for the Kiwis too. So currently not their strongest lineup, whereas you could argue that South Africa have gone stacked for the start of this game. And perhaps as they make changes, they'll start to have a few more gaps in that wall of defence. Now off to the left-hand side. Nice step there from Frank Vainuku, tackled by Donovan Don. New Zealand not really making any meterage at the moment, still sitting 5 metres out from their own try line. Now Sophie Maka goes on the outside. Oh, sorry, it was actually Natoa Tipo. And a penalty to Ryan Oosthuizen. And no clear release. Shilton Van Vyk tried to take the quick tap, but he was in front of the mark, so they do have to go back now. Blitzboks need Quagga Smith back, says Bruce. The scrum is called. And they've just got there. In 5 years, New Zealand are chasing their 4th podium finish for Singapore, whereas for the Blitzboks, they have not had a podium finish here since 2019. So pretty much on opposite ends when it comes to Singapore. And I'm not too sure what it is about the Singapore conditions that make the Springboks 7-side struggle, because, you know, they are used to playing in the heat, but something about the stadium or something about this location just doesn't seem to quite translate to them being able to take out big victories. Wait, I got told the tournament's over already. Who's your team, Valor? Because depending on who your team is, they may have already finished. Like, for instance, if your team is Argentina, Spain, Great Britain, or Australia, they have already played all their matches, so that may have been what the person was referring to, maybe. And we have got the Out the Kiwi, says Vanguard. Did you watch the cricket? I did. Fiji are through to the final. They are playing in just under an hour's time up against France in the men's final. So yeah, it's definitely going to be one to keep an eye out for. The women's final is also just around the corner. That is starting in 15 minutes time, and that is between New Zealand and Australia. And in terms of Fijiana, they finished 6th in the women's. They did lose their game up against France by 2 points in the 5th place playoff game. Fiji, my favourite, says Vanguard there. Now ball's going to be fed in, Cleomi. Going off to the right-hand side, so one change has been made for the box. In fact, I believe 2, because I did also see David Britt stepping on the inside, passed off to Tristan Lades. One more pass on the outside, and it will be the try out wide for Sebastian Job. And they take the lead now, the Blitzboks. Such a dangerous side when on attack. Just always look like they're on the verge of being able to score. And thanks, man, says Vela there. No worries at all. And we are going to be doing the commentary for that final as well, so be sure to stick around for that one. But the pass on the outside to Sebastian Job. And finished it off quite nicely for the South Africans. Try, says Ruth. And then Froggy's getting ready for jumping. And far, says Vanguard. The kick is struck, and it is over from South Africa near the touchline, being able to convert. Now given the 5-point lead to the box. Currently still 4 minutes remaining on the clock here for these two sides. New Zealand are behind. They did come from behind in their game up against Argentina, but that was only when they were 1 point behind rather than 5. Oh, going off to the left. Up against the Fijians, they did lose by 7 points as well. That's a good bump off from Vainuku. And he just sat down Tristan Lades. And a great bit of work in the breakdown, though, from Sebastian Job. He gets the turnover. He's been an impact player off the bench in this game. He hasn't really been given huge opportunities throughout the rest of the tournament, which makes you wonder why not when you see what he does here. Yeah, Frank Vainuku just running over the top of Tristan Lades, but he exposed himself, left a gap, and Sebastian Job was able to get right over the ball. Don't let them beat us in Rugby World Cup and Sevens too. Come on, boys, says Vanguard. Now 3.5 minutes remaining on the clock. It is another scrum feed for the South Africans. Go like that, and we will go like that as well. Last 7 penalties, 5 of which have been against New Zealand. So the ill discipline from the Kiwis has been hurting them. That's a loose ball picked up by Shilton Funvake, swung around in the tackle attempt. Now New Zealand looking for the counter ruck, picked up by Tristan Lades, and they've left a little bit of a gap there for New Zealand. Knock on from South Africa. Tony Nashu picks it up and makes his way to the halfway line. In both ways, Williams decides to go to the near side, hand on the ground there. But we was the New Zealand support player. Yeah, I think he ended up falling over the breakdown from that slow motion replay. All right, New Zealand running backwards. It's an interesting tactic, but in sevens it can actually sometimes work. It leaves a gap in the defence of the opposition every once in a while. Ball offloaded, Natoa Tipo. Now Vainuku, he's just got a goal of sitting down absolutely everyone by the looks of it. He's having a wrestle there with Sebastian Job. And up the guts, G, says Vanguard. Currently 2.5 minutes. New Zealand have to try and go up the guts, as you say, and score themselves a try. Bit of a counter-ruck from the box and the breakdown again. Regan Ware. New Zealand bit stagnant on attack currently. They're trying to work out what their next move is. Bit of a hospital pass to Tony Nashu, but that man's quick stepping was brilliant and managed to create the chance. There's a knock-on advantage for the Kiwis. They'll go back for the scrum. Looks like Oosthuizen may have a bit of an injury here too. Time is now turned off. These sides are exhausted, and this is only their second game of the day. Imagine if this was like the first day in the Singapore Sevens and they had to play 3 matches. I don't think these two sides would be able to go for the 14. I get to try New Zealand and convert it. Yeah, of course, we should mention if New Zealand score and don't convert here, we go to golden point time. The bronze final for the women's side of the draw, it went to golden point time. It was, in the end, Canada who managed to get themselves the win with the last-minute try from Olivia Epps, and then hold on and score again. Says Jasmine. Visits to the opposition, 22. 4 visits for South Africa, just the 1 for New Zealand. And I believe that was when they scored their early try in this match. Outside of that, they haven't had a huge amount of attacking opportunities. They've spent a lot of time being a little bit trapped by this Blitzboks defence. Now Williams out to feed this ball in the 2-minute clock. Now remaining for the Kiwis. They'll go off to the left-hand side. This is where they really do need that player like an Akulia Rokalisoa who can change the game. It looks like it's going to be some football skills there from one of the Kiwis. It's a young winger who scores the try. Mr. Manson scores it. I don't even know if you can call him Mr., seeing as he is one of the younger players in the team. But Michael Manson runs it on and gets the try, his second in his career. I have been told a lot of good things about this young player from New Zealand. Got plenty of pace, as we've seen there. It was chipped in behind. Sakuye thought he had it covered. It ends up going out of his hands. Michael Manson kicks it on again. And yeah, showing off some of those football skills to be able to control the ball. Him and Tristan Lays were in the foot race. And in the end, it was won by Michael Manson. And then forced that ball down. They've just mentioned he did the exact same thing in the game up against Australia. He's known for doing it. That's actually the only way he scored tries at this stage. This kick is very important. It certainly is. And New Zealand get it straight down the middle. Making the score now 14-12 in favour of New Zealand with just the 60 seconds remaining now on the clock. Yes, finish it, boys, says Vanguard. And Magic Great Try, says Studs Race there. And easy conversion was not easy. Actually, relatively out to the side, but made it look easy with the conversion. From, I want to say it was Riley Williams, trying to go the 10 metres. It's a knock-on from the Kiwi. Sakuye picks it up. Rob Rush looking for the steal and the breakdown. He's won the penalty. Where was the knock-on advantage? He gave one only about 3 metres to the side. I think the touch judge is telling the referee here. Yeah, the referee's just been told he was playing an advantage for a knock-on from the touch judge, so they will now go back for South Africa's scrum. I was about to say, that was one of the quickest advantages I have ever seen in a game of sevens. I know they're normally a little bit faster, but in that case, South Africa would have felt hard done by. They will get themselves the last attacking chance of the game, though, with 30 seconds remaining. South Africa in possession, 60 metres away from New Zealand's line. And now the conversion, says Studs Race. Now ready to feed that ball in. Bit of an early push there from the Kiwis by the looks of that one. But it's going to come out the back. There's a new advantage being played for South Africa. Sakuye dragged down on the halfway line. New penalty for New Zealand, not rolling away. Quick tap taken. 5 seconds remaining on the clock. Whoever scores next will win this game. If the Kiwis can defend, they would win this contest. Xander Reinders with some good pace shown. Another penalty advantage against New Zealand. Cross kick attempted by the South Africans. Picked up now on the outside for David Britt. Sakuye steps, I believe. That will be penalty advantage over. But it's a new advantage now against New Zealand. High tackle is the call. And South Africa will have the opportunity to take a quick tap. But it looks like they may just set themselves here and instead go for the scrum. We'll be covering some of the Six Nations. Also, I'm hoping to cover every single game of the Six Nations with a little bit of luck. There might be 1 or 2 games that we end up missing, but overall we're going to be covering like 95, if not more, % of the Six Nations competition. And it looks like just someone putting their boot back on at the moment. We're currently 30 seconds past in terms of the full-time siren. South Africa have got themselves the ball, and they are about 25 metres out from the Kiwis line here. Get the ball, New Zealand, and then kick it out, says Jasmine. And woohoo, hectic pace, says Ruth. Yeah, there might be a last-minute steal here for the South Africans. It's exactly what New Zealand did up against Argentina, scoring right on the verge of defeat. New Zealand needs a double recard with their filthy tactics, says Xander. Now, in fact, it's 22 metres out rather than 25. Extra metres do help. And now scrum feed. Any knock-on here from the South Africans would end this game. Any sort of points would win it for them. Scrum went down, but now it is back stable, taking their time to feed that ball in. And now pass back to Sakuye, losing a few metres. Now looking for the go to the left-hand side. Pressure put on Tristan Lays. New Zealand shut him down and they tie him up. He's told to use it. It will not come out. There is no way for Lays to get rid of it. And that is the end of the contest. New Zealand win it by the 2 points. The sad thing is this was my score prediction for the men's final. But I chose the wrong game, obviously. I said 14 points to 12 for the final between Fiji and France. Little did I know that was going to be the score for this game. Just that one missed kick for South Africa was the difference between these two sides. Kicking once again, letting them down. Says please and tease. And go wide, mate, says JD. And New Zealand, says Ruth. Yeah, great battle between these two sides. Yet again, they always have it when they go face to face. And the thing is, it's probably going to be a match that we see next week as well, which is great news. Great game, says Jeff. Yeah, great way to finish the tournament for both of these sides. I know that South Africa will be disappointed to have lost that game by 2, but at the end of the day, all that separated these two sides was that kick. So it could have easily gone either way. And once again, if they face each other next week, I'm sure it will be an outstanding contest. But now there is a women's final, ladies and gentlemen, just around the corner. That is going to be Australia versus New Zealand. Once again, that trans-Tasman rivalry does come to tuition in that match. And yeah, after that, it is the men's final between Fiji and France. Kiwi boys went out there, says JD. And thanks, Hamish, always great. Says please and tease. And there as well. But yeah, nonetheless, we will be transferring over to that next live stream in the very near future, ladies and gents, for that Australia versus New Zealand game. And then also after that, we have got the final between France and Fiji. But thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you all for the next one.